together forever. This is the program designed to build and strengthen your relationships. Today, we want to look at the subject, how to manage sexual pressure. Both male and female are sexual beings. Right from creation, our bodies were made in such a manner that we respond to sexual instinct. Even if you are a born-again Christian, sexual drives do not die when you are born again, when you are baptized, or when you take Mass or Lord's Supper. Now, this sexual voltage needs to be controlled. Inasmuch as God has embedded in us the sexual pleasure within ourselves, it is important that this pressure is managed in the rightful confinements. Now, when you look at those who have done electrical engineering, they will tell you that when you are building a house, you put up voltage regulator so that power or current is able to move in its required proportions, so that if it's low current flowing in, the voltage regulator will put it up. If it's too much power, the voltage regulator will bring it down. Something of that nature. So even when it comes to human beings, within ourselves, there is this voltage, there is this volcano which we need to control. Hence the subject, how to manage sexual pressure. Can sexual pressure be managed? The answer is yes. How is the question? This is how you can manage your sexual pressure. Number one, control your mind. Sexual matters are basically issues of the mind. Sex begins in the mind. Therefore, for you to manage this pressure, mind what you feed your mind. You must be careful. What do you feed your brains? What do you see in your life? Because it is said, by beholding, you become changed. So, mind what you take in your brains. Control your mind. Don't dwell on pornography, because the law of nature states garbage in, garbage out. So one way you can manage your sexual pressure is to be careful of what you see, what you read, what you do, and you simply manage your brain. Number two is to set boundaries to your life. You know, there are people who have fallen into a rut of sexual temptation, not that they had planned for it, but the fact is that they put themselves in a vulnerable situation. So what do? Set boundaries when it comes to relations with the opposite sex. How do you kiss a man who is not your husband? And according to our culture, except other cultures, when you kiss someone, it is serious business. Mind what you touch, where you touch. Mind the place where you meet with your fiancé. Mind the time that you are together. And also the position. How do you sit in an apartment with your fiancé? You are both half naked. You are seated on a bed. That is taking life for granted. When you are tempted, you have nobody to blame. So how do you manage sexual pressure? Set boundaries to yourself. Another important thing on how to manage sexual pressure: keep yourself occupied. That is number 3 point. Keep yourself occupied. Because an idle mind is the workshop of the devil. So, in your life, plan what to do. Wake up, do this and that, run here and there, keep yourself, go for exercise, go for football, go for netball, go for volleyball. Do 1 or 2 things, because the idle mind is the workshop of the devil. So one way you can overcome sexual temptation is to keep yourself occupied. Number 4, way that can help you and I overcome sexual pressure is to be careful with suggestive talk. It's important what you say. For example, here is a woman and here is a man. The man asks, "Hey, Jacqueline, how are you? How is the family? How is your husband?" "No, my husband is not around. He went to Europe." "Oh, when did he go?" 2 months ago." "Wow, how are you managing? This is winter." And then the woman says, "Well, we are just struggling." "Oh, sorry, my dear, for that. We'll keep you company." Just from that talk, you have concluded matters already. You have put yourself vulnerable. You are simply saying, as a woman, as a man, that here am I, I'm available. So be careful with suggestive talk. Be careful with suggestive conduct. The way you dress speaks. The way you carry yourself speaks. The way you carry out jokes or cousinship speaks volumes. So, how do you overcome sexual pressure? Be careful with suggestive talk. Another 5th important point on how you can manage sexual pressure is to set standards based on the Bible, like what Joseph did. Set standards based on the Bible. What are these standards based on the Bible? According to Genesis 39, verse 9, this is what the Bible says. "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" This was the response of Joseph. Remember the story in the Bible in the book of Genesis chapter 39. Joseph is sold to Egypt. And when he is sold to Egypt, he is bought by Potiphar. We see Joseph in Egypt and at Potiphar's home. As Joseph went out on his day-to-day chores, the eyes of Mrs. Potiphar were cast on Joseph. One day, driven in her jungle of lust, she opened up to Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." And Joseph's response was, "How can I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" What was before Joseph? It was God's presence. Joseph had divine presence around him. He knew God was there. He did not mind whether Potiphar himself was out or there were no people around. All that Joseph said, "How can I do such a wicked thing and sin against my God?" This is the position all those that want to overcome sexual pressure should have. Tell yourself, God is everywhere. God is omnipresent. You cannot do anything without his notice. Whether you are in the sea, whether you are underground, whether you are on a mountain, whether you are in the hotel, God is able to see your activities. And this was the picture of Joseph. How can I do such a wicked thing and sin against my God? That was his position, very clear. And when God's presence is always with us, we will refrain to do stupid things because we fear to sin against God. Another way that can help you and I overcome sexual pressure is basically to run away when you sense danger. Let's bring back the story of Joseph. When Mrs. Potiphar tried to talk to Joseph about going to bed with him, Joseph refused. Meanwhile, Mrs. Potiphar did not end there. And remember, especially young people, when the devil brings this temptation and does not succeed, he will try to find another temptation to catch up with you. So we have to be vigilant all the time to pray and to be conscious of the presence of God. So for Joseph, he's working now in the house. Mrs. Potiphar advances viciously, and by force, Mrs. Potiphar pounces on Joseph to drag him into bed. But this was the response of Joseph. According to Genesis chapter 39, verse 12, this is what the Bible says. She caught him by his cloak or coat and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. What are we saying here? When Joseph sensed danger, dragged by Mrs. Potiphar into bed, Joseph made a quick decision. He let go the coat. He did not mind what was in the pockets of the coat. He simply fled, leaving the coat. It does not mean that Joseph was a coward. There are some of you young people, young ladies. Here is a guy advancing to you. You are not sensitive. He starts touching your head. He starts touching your breast. He starts going down. And you are there smiling. You'll be butchered alive. Joseph fled. He left the coat behind. He did not mind what was in the coat. What was at stake was his life and his integrity with humanity and with God. So, what is the point? When you sense danger, that this man is advancing to me, or this young lady or this woman is not seated properly, turn your face away. Flee from the presence of sin that will corrupt you. Don't think you are brave. If you think you are brave, one day you'll go down. These are the words that I got from WhatsApp. And the words are, marriage doesn't cure lust. If it did, adultery wouldn't exist. Lust doesn't care whether you are married or single. You may be a Solomon in wisdom, or David in praise, or Abraham in faith, or Joshua in war. But if you are not Joseph in discipline, you will end up like Samson in destruction. Profound statement indeed. Profound statement. Number 9 way of managing sexual pressure is commit your life to God. God is your creator. God knows your weaknesses. God knows your strength. If you lead a prayerful life, God will always be there for you. When you sense God's presence wherever you are, even when people don't know about you, you are out in Dubai, you are out there in America, you are out there in Egypt, you are down there in South Africa, where you have all your freedom to do sin. When God's presence is with you, it doesn't matter. Wherever you are, whether you are alone, whether you are beyond a point of reach by others, when God's presence is with you, that is the most powerful hedge against the temptation of sex. Commit your life to God, and God will be able to help you out in your life. He has never failed any case. He has power to give you a victorious life. His death is not in vain. His death on the cross of Calvary has power to give you to overcome sexual temptation. Remember, child of God, cheap sex can cost your integrity. Cheap sex can destroy your dignity. Therefore, protect yourself. Remember, sex outside marriage causes a lot of psychological damage. That stigma in your mind will never go when you indulge yourself in cheap sex. Remember, child of God, you cannot do experiments with your life. Others will tell you, we have done it, we have enjoyed it. But you is you. Stand for God. And when you stand for God, God will stand up for you. I want to let you know, dear viewer, that you have just one life. One life which is irreplaceable. And how are you handling your life? Remember, life is in your hands, depending on how you carry yourself. Eternal happiness is in your hands. Eternal doom is in your hands, depending on the choices you are making every day. Remember, friend, there are 2 rules for carpenters and the tailors. The 2 rules are measure twice and cut once. You have one life. How are you managing your life? If you indulge in casual sex, if you cannot manage your sexual temptations, you may go to the grave earlier than intended. Remember the tailor's rule and the carpenter's rule. Measure twice, but cut once. How are you managing your life? Measure twice, cut once. Till we meet, may God abundantly bless you.